New York City, on a side track in the rail yard, sat an old caboose. She had a funny little chimney. She was small, and her red paint was peeling. If any of the people on the big trains that roared by had looked out the windows, they could have seen her there. But they were busy going somewhere fast, so they didn't see her. She dreamed of the days when she had rattled along happily. Is that light bothering you? Yeah. Just put down. She dreamed of the days that she rattled along happily behind the old freight trains, but no longer. She remembered her first run across the country. Two men named Rough Ned and Little Jim lived in her. During the night, they would go out on the back platform to wave at all the people in the little towns that came out to see the trains go by. Just as old Caboose was dreaming like this, a silver and red streamliner streaked past and hooted at her. And when the sound of the tracks and the train died down, old Caboose felt older and lonelier than ever. On the other side of her ran a white road where all the buses with their big yellow spots for eyes were rolling. She finally went to sleep feeling very sad. The next morning, just as the sun was getting round and yellow in the sky, and before old Caboose had even opened her tired old eyes, she was awakened by a small noise beside her. "Look," a little voice said. "It has my name on it." "It has my name on it." "Well, so it does," said another little voice. Now this made the caboose nearly jump off her track. Okay. She opened her eyes and looked. Beside her were a little old woman and a little old man. They were little people, and they had round, red cheeks. "Callie," said the little old man, "this caboose could take us to California." "But how?" asked the little old woman. "You'll see," he cried, and he ran up the road. So the little old woman waited, and old Caboose waited too, to see what would happen. In a few minutes, he came back. We're trying to hold this old book together. "She's ours," he yelled. "They sold her for junk." When they both joined hands and ran around the old caboose, she was amazed. They both turned handsprings, so they were getting older in years. After that, things happened so fast that the caboose hardly knew what was happening. She listened to them, and she found out that their names were Pete and Callie. They were going to California so Pete could find a job in the railroad yards with his brother. Pete knew all about trains. He took a big oil can out of his suitcase. "Oil," thought old Caboose greedily. She had been thirsty for oil for a long time. It trickled down and down her right front wheel, and the big rusty lumps just fell off. Old Caboose began to feel better already. Inside the caboose, Callie was giving her a cleaning, and she scrubbed so hard that the caboose felt sore in spots. Then it was nearly dark. Pete took out the 2 red flags from the closet inside old Caboose and went out to the train tracks. It was almost time for the evening freight. Pete heard it, then Callie heard it, then old Caboose heard it. The big black engine was getting larger and larger and larger, and Pete ran out into the middle of the railroad tracks and waved his red flags. Screech! Went the air brakes. Bangity bang! Thud! Thud! Went the cars as they stopped behind the old black engine. "What do you want to gonna do? Wreck this train? Screamed the engineer. He raised his goggles and then he stopped screaming. Why, he said, is that Pete O'Brien? Black Bill, said Pete. Old Caboose listened, but she could not hear what they were saying. He was pointing to her. Going as far as Chicago, said Black Bill. And haven't picked up my caboose yet, so we'll just hook her on instead. Old Caboose's heart skipped several feet of track. She was really going to run on the road again. She knew the big black engine that Black Bill was driving. Standing there, sending up his puffs of white smoke, was an old engine. It was a war horse of the tracks named Chug-a-Toot. Old Caboose could feel safe behind him. She knew him. All aboard, yelled Black Bill. All aboard, yelled the train men. All aboard, yelled Pete and Callie. The last battered old yellow freight car slid back to bump into Old Caboose, and there was a pull and a jolt and another pull, and bang, 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 Old Caboose began to sing all over a slightly rusty song. So her old wheels were finally moving along the track. She was so happy to be moving again. Clankety clank, clankety 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 clank, clank, clank. Faster and faster went Old Caboose behind old Chug-a-Toot, with all the freight cars following him. The night air rushed around her, and old Chug-a-Toot let out a whistle that ran along the dark. Old Caboose was very happy. And you know what? We don't have time to read the rest of the story tonight. That's all we have. But I want to tell you something. I want to tell you about a dream I had in 1992 when I was 45 years old. I dreamed about a little girl who looked like me. She had her hair pulled back from her face with a barrette in the back. She was riding on a toy caboose. She was playing a toy musical instrument. It was red plastic and it looked like a pan flute. That's one of those flutes with a lot of mouth holes. The caboose was red too, but it was wooden and it had red wheels. As the little girl rode the caboose, she just scooted it along with her feet, you know, like that, on the sidewalk. She wouldn't pay any attention to anybody else. And she looked really happy with herself.